All right, we'll get to Troy Aikman at 5. We'll have NFL picks coming up. As always, Gary Danielson on college football, including Florida State, Miami, Michigan State, Georgia, and Florida down in Jacksonville. Now, this thing that I told you about top of the show, which let's find out if it's just a bunch of nonsense or there's something to it. Now, companies that are traded are worth a lot. Small cap companies are worth a couple of billion. Now, this would be just players a great player's income for his career would be, a couple $100 million, maybe, Tiger Woods would be a billion, but that's 1 in a million. Jim Cramer, who you see on CNBC everywhere, you see him with Mad Money, and listen, needs no introduction, and obviously knows stocks as well as any human, and also likes sports because you see him talk about sports all the time. Joins us. Jim, welcome. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm so thrilled to be on your show.
Oh, you've been on it before. Stop. You know that. Well, it's good to see you as always.
Listen, I got to do this market stuff, but this is what I care about.
Well, listen, tell me, is this just a bunch of nonsense, or is there something of substance to this?
Well, I think it's actually both. I think that these guys believe it's substantive, but it will be nonsense if the SEC has a brain. Because the Securities and Exchange Commission should never, ever let this kind of thing happen, because the risk involved is so great that I just think most people will get hoodwinked if they play in this.
Right. Now, explain. Now, here's how, monetize this for me, Jim. Now, if we have Arian Foster out there who this company decides to pay him $10 million for 10% of his lifetime earnings, we're not talking about, in the kind of monies you guys talk about, a big deal. How would they monetize such a thing? I mean, how many shares of stock would they sell in such a thing?
I think that it would end up being kind of like a tracking stock. It wouldn't be for real. It would just be a kind of, in some way, a greater fool game. You'd put out a lot of stock, and if you really liked them, maybe you would bid them up as if you were in a fantasy league and you're playing with bogus dollars, except for this time it's for real.
Yeah,
That's what's so bad about it.
What do you think about the guys who are actually trying to do, actually paying these guys and trying to broker this?
Well, look, I think that I am never going to get in the way of a guy trying to make a buck. But I will say this, the SEC should. I don't think that this is the kind of security that is going to give our securities markets a good name. We already have. We've been putting people in jail all the time now for insider trading. We've had so much with the banks and just evil. And, who needs this? Why do we need to be able to buy 10% of the future earnings of Vernon Davis? I just don't think it's something that they should be allowing.
I totally agree. So you're not for it. You don't see it as a viable thing, right?
No, let me tell you. Let's say we had this, okay?
Right.
Let's say that a player like Andy Dalton had a stock.
Right.
I'd sort that thing down to 0. He gave me 13 points last night, and I had the Thursday curse.
There you go.
Which means I got to wait till Sunday now to make it back.
Hey, Steven, you're worried about that. I'm saying, how do you take a sack from the 8-yard line in the end zone? I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah. You do that? Because Cramer has you. You knew that. Because it was like,
hey, he's been productive.
I'll short his stock. I hope Fantax approaches him.
See, you're big on the. Now, you have these. I don't like fantasy games because I don't understand how you root for guys on these different teams.
It's not
fantasy?
No, it's not. It's reality. The rest of life is fantasy.
So this is actually that important, right? How many?
I went to Fantasy Guru, who's one of my faves.
Right.
He said, "Don't play luck." He said, "Don't play luck." Talking to Schefter. You have to go to Shefty, right? Adam Schefter. He was saying, "Listen, he didn't like luck. Luck was on I had luck my obvious. He was on a buy. He's going to come back in." It was so stupid, and I blame Dalton because it's like I think Dalton knows. I think Dalton knows how much emphasis I put on him.
Well, you see, that's the problem. Plus, you got to know. So the key is to just figure out who's going to have a big game that week, right? That's the idea, just that week.
Well, this is fantasy. This whole Fantex thing is just another. They recognize that 50 million. There's supposed to be something like 50 million names that have gone into Yahoo and ESPN NFL. So they recognize this is an exploitation of fantasy. I also think the NFL ought to speak up. The NFL is a great brand. This would be legalized gambling. Don't you want? Can you imagine the guys who get to Davis, the guys who would try to get to Davis and try to get him to take a dive?
Well,
you know how much money's involved? This isn't just like Vegas. This is individual players that where you would bet him in, I'm not saying these players are susceptible to it. I'm saying that there are people who are susceptible to trying to buy off a player.
I think the whole thing's crazy, but the guy evidently, if somebody gave Arian Foster $10 million, he must have got approval to do that somewhere, because he thinks he's going to make money somewhere along the line, right? He did give him $10 million.
I thought that too. But I don't think the NFL is even. I think the NFL's not even. I think they're behind on this one. I think that they're not ahead of this. I think that matters. It's like a lot of things where everybody kind of figures that everybody had checked off on it,
right?
And then suddenly it turns out no one had checked off on it. But look, I like the entrepreneurial nature of it. I think it's a great way to get involved with fantasy. But I do believe and exploit it. And I think I always think players should be paid more because I love these guys. These guys are fantastic that they have. But I just think that the NFL, neither the NFL nor the SEC should bless it because it's just so risky for the regular guy who might think, hey, listen, man, Davis is going to have a big weekend. I'm going to go all in. He should stick to fantasy.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you, okay? And I've never done this because I don't let people talk about that on this show, ever, because I don't like it. Now, here's the thing, just for you. You have to put in your lineup all on Thursday because you had Dalton, or do you have to put it on Sunday?
I'm game time decision on Jimmy Graham versus Reed.
Tell me this. Tell me what you think about the markets between now and New Year, and tell me one stock people should that you think people should like, and then I'll tell you between any position you want who you should play this weekend.
Fair enough. Let me give you some info. Okay, in the last 50 years, there's only been 4 times that the Standard & Poor's has been up 20% for the first 10 months of the year.
Okay.
4 times. All 4 of those, November and December, were up. All 4. An average of roughly about 4%. I am saying that we will be up 4% between now and the end of the year, putting us at up 27%. And the stock you want to own is Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson?
Yes.
Really?
Well, because I'm going a little more conservative because we're not.
And what segment do you like?
Sailboat. I mean, we're actually a lot of people. Millions of people listen to your show. I'm giving them J&J.
What segment do you like between now and the end of the year? Like what part? Will one segment outperform?
I like the big industrials because these companies are doing business in Europe, and Europe is just on fire. That's why I'm a Boeing. I like 3M a lot. I think both of those are going to have good years. I'm all in GE. I think that one's a good one. But I do like Johnson & Johnson very much.
Now, let me
Honeywell, by the way, could see 93. It's at 87.
We're talking with CNBC's Jim Cramer. When you do your show every night, you've been doing Mad Money now for thousands of shows, 2,000 shows, right?
2,000 shows.
Which is remarkable.
Thank you.
When you take calls, right?
Uh-huh.
How many different, do you tell your guys that they can talk about any position they want? Can any caller talk about any stock they want? Can they throw anything at you?
Bigger than $300 million.
Okay, so it has to be a certain kind of stock. How do you know so much?
Like 2,000 shows.
How do you know so much about so many different? How can you have so much information about so many stocks?
Well, I'm kind of like the guys at the Elias. I'm like the Hurt brothers.
I mean, you have so much information about so many stocks. It's crazy.
Well, I have no other life other than fantasy.
but so much information. It is utterly. And I've heard a couple of times because I watch it. I love it. I watch it every day.
You got the Regeneron.
I watch it every day.
Regeneron very low.
I love it every day. I watch you every day. You helped out. You gave our guys last year at the Super Bowl, no kidding, like 3 stocks that all 3. You can ask my producer how well they all did.
And
they did crazy.
Kept going hard.
All of them.
Brunswick. You did the Brunswick.
And you gave everyone Goldman Sachs last year at the Super Bowl, which went flying.
BlackRock, whoa.
Right. And it went flying. All right, now, just because of that, Jim Cramer, tell me who it's between this weekend to have a big weekend. Go ahead.
Okay, this is really important. Now, can we get serious for a second?
Go ahead.
Eddie Lacy. I'm going to you 3. I got to pick 2. Eddie Lacy,
right.
Zach Stacy,
right.
And Le'Veon Bell. Who sits? Who plays?
How many play?
I can only allow 2 of those 3 to play.
Lacy and Stacy.
Yeah, so it's Lacy, Stacy, and Le'Veon.
No.
Who sits?
Bell sits.
He does?
Yes, play the other 2.
You think even though
I'll tell you why.
He's not that good against the run?
I'll tell you why. Because they're going to get behind in the game and they're not going to throw the ball.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Play
right.
the other 2 guys.
They're going to get past
And I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Okay? Stacy is really good.
You do? You think that? That was not a flash in the pan last week.
I think he's really good. I think he's going to have a very big year the rest of the way.
You know, where Tennessee's defense looked a little strong.
I like him a lot. I like him a lot. That's a very now. Go ahead. Give me your wide receivers. How many?
Okay, well, hold on. Let me give you Jimmy Graham versus Jordan Reed. Can you believe I had the wisdom to pick up Reed? That was actually a Schefter.
Jimmy Graham, you have to play every week.
You have to play Graham, right?
No question.
Okay,
against the Jets? Are you serious?
No, I know.
Yeah,
no, I didn't bring the one I asked was the Le'Veon thing.
Okay.
And then everything else is said.
Okay.
I got the LaShawn. I can't sit LaShawn with Foles back, even though I know he's a Vic play. Vic, not that good last week.
Who's your two quarterbacks you have this Sunday?
I already played. I already played
him. Okay, so who's your other two?
No, my other quarterback is Andrew Luck. I should have played him.
Well, yeah. You only play one quarterback? Is that how it works?
Play one quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you didn't play Andrew Luck against?
No. I'm shooting. Honestly, I'm trying to find
if you have Andrew Luck, you never sit him. Okay,
I just need to find a psychiatrist that understands.
Never sit. That's like you. That is like you sitting Netflix. Okay. I mean, you know that. Are you going to sit that?
I would take away my belt and my shoelaces if I sat Netflix.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Good to talk to you.
Take care. Jim Cramer. So he does not take that seriously right now, nor do I, but I wanted to get it from someone who knows what they're talking about. So, and he does. And I tell you right now, the guy, I happen to like the stock stuff a lot. He came on our show last year at the Super Bowl. And these guys all wanted stock picks. I mean, he gave these guys like 3 stocks. Listen, you got to also, just to be fair, stock market's going crazy this year. Okay, so if you threw a dart, you're going to do pretty well. But he gave him some stocks that really went flying. They really did. 4 o'clock, we'll come back. We got a lot more to do. Gary Danielson coming up. Aikman coming up. Picks coming up. We're getting ready to start the Breeders' Cup real races. They call these other races, it's just been Santa Anita so far. And I'll tell you right now, if you're into that, the Santa Anita main track has been speed favoring crazy so far. Speed favoring nuts so far, so take that into account. Main track. 4 o'clock, here's Mr. Met.